Can I talk to you tonight about the propaganda that controls much of our lives? And I'm not talking about the media or even social media or politics. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the enemy of our souls. The enemy of our souls that really, truly, he uses. There's things we believe. There's things we think. There's mindsets that we have. We have no idea when we got them, when they came into our lives, yet they're so strong and so powerful. There's some of you guys that'll say, well, yeah, I don't like green beans. And it's like, have you tried them since you were 4? But the point is that I think a lot of our beliefs are like that too. You know, some of you guys will think, man, the good Lord gives and the good Lord takes away. Please show me chapter and verse for that. See, what we've got to understand is I want every man to be a liar and the word of God to be the truth, my truth. I want everything I believe, everything I think, not just believe, but everything that I think, everything that I ponder, I want it to be based significantly on God's promise. Are you with me on that? So tonight I want to talk to you about some fundamental truths and principles that come into play and how we can break the power of the enemy on our thought life. Anybody with me on that? Because it's not like the devil's going to take his 2 fingers and put them in your nose holes and drag you through life. It's just what he's going to do is he's the deception of how we feel and how we've always thought and what people around us are saying and other people's opinions. The last thing you guys want is for me to get up and repeat something I've heard. It is. I mean, I've got to be real careful what I listen to. Like today, I had to be real careful. There was a YouTube that I came across, and I thought, I'm interested in that. So you know what I did? I texted the link to it to me to listen to it tomorrow because it would have messed with me on what I had in my heart to preach tonight. And understand, if that's in a good way, just think about how it is in an evil way. And see, we're thinking that the devil's got these horns and a long pointy tail, and no, you know what? Man, the Bible refers to him as an angel of light. It's attractive. It's like, it's not that bad. It's not going to kill you. I mean, that's his deception. His deception is that you're going to reject God or God's going to reject you. He's just like he did with Eve. He said, look, it's not going to kill you. See, the main ways that the devil, and you guys that have been, how many of you guys have been to church here for a while? Wave to me. Okay. You've heard me say this before, that let's get up, let's sing, let's shout, let's change the atmosphere. Let's affect the atmosphere. And because the main way that the devil operates in our lives is through our environment. And when we change the atmosphere, it affects the environment. Man, when you're around happy people, it affects the environment. When you're around negative, pessimistic people, it affects the environment. Man, I made a hospital visit today, and I went and visited a Muslim woman. And I just sat down with she and her daughter, and she's in horrific pain. And really, honestly, let me just tell you, it's a perfect scenario. She's getting worse. And you'll say, wait a second, how's it a perfect scenario if she's getting worse? Remember the woman with the issue of blood that spent everything she had and only got worse and then ran into Jesus? Man, I'm telling you, she's starting to rethink even like her hospital saying, doctoring and scientists. And I love doctors. And the whole idea, I visited a doctor today and we just talked and he told me how healthy I was. But the idea of this is that we have to look at our lives and understand that the environment of our life truly affects us. And I don't want to get into a nature over nurture debate with you. I just want you to know that the environment of your life matters, that you're here tonight matters, that you're sitting with people tonight matter, how you greet people, man, it matters. Why do we have greeters and crosswalk and people helping you park your cars? Everyone in here can park their car, but it matters that you're here, and it's a service oriented and it's an excellence creating environment. See, that's what church has to be. You know, it's interesting because a few years ago I was at a church and I was on a panel with pastors and there were 4 or 5 of us on this panel and there was probably 300 or 400 pastors that were there. It was in Minneapolis. And one of the pastors in the crowd asked a question. He said, what's the standard you have to keep for your kids' ministry? And it's interesting. It was an interesting question the way he posed it. It was very, very thoughtful and really honestly something that we have to have an answer for and a solution for. But what's the standard we have to have for kids ministry? And one of the pastors said, well, here's the standard that we use. We tour the public schools around our church. And our facilities and our program have to at least match, if not exceed, what the public schools are offering. And when you look at it, here's what's interesting is that Jen Jackson's a principal at Union, and we were in a meeting a couple weeks ago, and the first day of school, every student at Union High School got a free laptop. They were all given a laptop at school. It's like, oh my gosh. I mean, it made me start thinking, like what we're offering our kids. I mean, what we're offering in our program and our facilities. Because let me tell you something, the personnel are second to none. I mean, I'm telling you, I'll go toe to toe with any school, church, organization, anybody personnel-wise. But you know what? We've got to think about the property, and we've got to think about the facilities, and we've got to think about the program. But in our environment, that's where our habits come into play. Our habits enter the situation because of our environment. And what our habits do, and let me tell you how the scenario works. It goes from our thoughts to our words to our actions to our habits. And that's what our life becomes, is the summation of those four things. But let me tell you, it's a stair step, and it goes from our thoughts to our words to our actions to our habits. See, if you've got thoughts, like if you're here and you've got suicidal thoughts, let's just say people deal with that, and you have suicidal thoughts, I don't want you just to have thoughts to counter those suicidal thoughts. I want to give you words to trump those suicidal thoughts. See, so words trump thoughts, but listen, then our actions trump our words, right? But our habits trump our actions. So the main thing in our lives, if you want to beat the devil, is you've got to have the right habits. And that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. See, us having the right habits, because habits keep the door open. And we all know that our thoughts do, our words do, our actions do, but our habits don't open the door. They keep the door open, either for God or for the devil. So if there's an open door for the devil in your life, check your habits. I mean, and there's a trickle-down effect that's going to get to your thoughts, but the habits keep the door open. But listen, our disciplines counter bad habits. See, that's why we're not just to be believers. As believers, it's awesome. It's a great life. But let me tell you, how many of you guys want to live your best life? You get to live your best life, listen, if you're disciplined, if you're a disciple. See, let me just tell you, you're a disciple, you got to be disciplined. You got to be able to tell your flesh no. You got to tell your appetites no. See, what's interesting, in all of my kids, Kennedy really is the one I remember because she's the youngest. But I remember there was a time where I just finally sat her down and I said, okay, I love you. You're a joy in my life. She never woke up in a bad mood till she was like 12 or 12 and a half. And that woman thing hit her life, and it's like, dear God, what just happened? What has happened to my precious little angel? But anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, no, I had to sit her down, and I say, okay, Kennedy, here's how this is. Because let me tell you, Kennedy's similar to Taylor. Taylor is smarter than me. He can talk better. So I'd say, hey, Taylor, no, you're not going to be able to do that. Well, Dad, let me explain to you the benefits of me doing it, okay? And the benefits to you. Let me tell you the increase that's going to come into your life if you allow me to do this. And I'm like, and next thing you know, he's doing it, and I'm paying for him to do it. And so with Kennedy, that's why I just tell Taylor, listen, when an adult says no, Taylor, finish it. You drop it. Because like, look, no is no, all right? So when an adult says no, so teach your kids, when an adult says no, they drop it, okay? Especially if you're raising smart kids. If your kid's just an idiot, I don't think it really matters, all right? But if you're raising smart kids, no, it's a little awkward because the people are going, yeah, I know, because I know some of your kids. But I had to tell Kennedy, I said, listen, everything you ask me from here forward, the answer's no. Look at me. What's synonymous with Dad is I'm the no guy. It's no. And she said, what? I said, well, the answer is no. Anything you want to ask. You want to spend the night out? You want a new bow because that's what she wore every day? You want to go get some ice cream? Just the answer is no. Until you learn how to receive no. And some of you guys need to do that in your own lives. You need to learn how to tell yourself no, and you receive it, and you accept it. Take no for an answer. I'm not doing that. I'm not eating that. I don't have to have dessert every night. Whatever it is. Because I'll tell you this, our habits are related. They really are. They're congruent with our life. You know the expression we use around here a lot, all over the place. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. That's how I know God. The God that I know, the way he does anything is the way he does everything. Well, so if that's accurate, which I believe it is, then our habits are all related. And they all begin to affect each other. And let me tell you about weakness in our lives. It becomes contagious. And that's why Paul said, whoa, wait a minute. I've identified some weakness. Man, God, help me with this. God, take this weakness from me. God, take this from me. Man, there's a thorn in my flesh. God, take that. Oh, your grace is sufficient. I got it. See, because weakness becomes contagious in our lives. No, I can't do that. No, I can't afford that. No, they'd never want to go to dinner. But that's why Paul said, God said back to Paul, my grace is sufficient for you. In your weakness is made my perfect strength. And Paul said, oh my gosh. The revelation hit him, and he said, I'd rather be weak than strong. But when we're weak, we what do? We call upon God's strength. And it's vital to us to have this. We want to help people win. That's the mantra of our church. Man, how many of you guys are winning? All the campuses, raise your hands. How many of you guys are winning? You really are. It's not that you don't have some battles. And let me tell you, the defeats that I suffer, then they're not forever defeats. They're temporary defeats. They don't last very long. You know why? I get knocked down, I get back up and fight back. See, that's what we've got to do. We've got to understand the fight that's in us. What contends with you, God contends with it. Something messing with you, God obliterates it. And see, we've got to understand our relationship with God. And the Bible is clear that our help comes from above. So where's our victory? Above. We always have to be looking up. That's why God is the lifter of our head. That's why body language is so huge. Man, if you got your head down and your shoulders slumped and Man, I've been working out with Jaime for about a month now. I came here, the door was locked. I'm like, dear God, I got to walk through another door. I'm just drained. It's the end of the day. These people. So I went around and I got to the stairs and I'm going up the stairs. I get about 3/4 of the way up and I'm like, dear God, I'm just fatigued. Look at my arms. My legs are like jelly. And I go and sit down, and Brian's goes, man, me too. Brian's working out as well. He said, it's protein. So, man, I'm taking these bulletproof bars, and I'm jamming them like right now, I'm ready to go. Someone want to wrestle? Anybody want a foot race? I'm ready. I'm going to go. I just ran, in my mind, a 6-minute mile back on that track back there. But see, you just need to get some of that. I don't know why I said that. But we've got to take the reins of our life. Because our help comes from above. And let me just tell you, the answer is going to come from the people that are around your lives. If you have the wrong people around your lives, what answers are you going to get? The wrong answers. See, and we have to take the reins of our own lives, take responsibility for our lives, and not destroy the habit that we once had of seeking God. I remember every time I had an issue in my life as a relatively new Christian, I would stop and say, okay, God, this sucks. Where are you? God, where are you? I mean, I did that with, Taylor was in the hospital. Doctor said there's nothing we can do. I get a call from Andrew Womack. He and I had crossed paths a few times at meetings. I don't know that he could have picked me out of a lineup, but he said, hey, I heard you going through something. Can I come by? I said, sure. He came to the hospital, and you know what? In the hallway, he said, before we go in, Bill, I want to let you know this is spiritual. And as soon as he said that, let me tell you, this fight rose up on the inside of me. It's not a fight of health now. It's a fight of faith now. It's spiritual now. Let me tell you, if I'm in a spiritual fight, I'm going to win. I'm just telling you, because the weapons of my warfare aren't carnal. They're mighty unto God for the pulling down of strongholds, right? You too? I mean, it's spiritual. See, so we've got to look at it. We can't destroy the habit of seeking God. We have to look to God for our help. And listen, and be free thinkers with it. Man, the only limitations you have in your life are in your dadgum head. I'm not kidding you. I mean, there's a little girl from like the Netherlands who's like 16 that's speaking to millions of people yesterday about climate change. Probably has no idea what she's talking about. And millions of people are listening and going, yes, I love that. It's like out of the mouth of babes. Whether she's right or wrong is immaterial, but let me just tell you, she didn't buy the lie that most people in the church is going to buy, thinking, who's going to listen to me? I'm only a 16-year-old little girl. See, I'm just telling you how powerful this is. And it can be used for good, and it can be used for bad. See, the right people around your life are important. Why? They have opinions. And you want the right opinions in your life. And you've got to take inventory. Who's speaking into your life? Who are you listening to? Is it someone on the television with a teleprompter? The answer is yes. I say we've got to check that. I say we have to think for ourselves. And I don't know that you've ever heard me say that before. You got to think for yourself. What do you believe? Why do you believe it? We have to think for ourselves. And we've got to become free thinkers. We've got to be around free thinkers. Man, I'll just tell you, God's checked my heart. I'm beginning to dream again. I want to build a playground, and it's really, that's Sandy's idea, but we're going to build a playground on the bottom half of the dock that's just going to make every kid in town scream when they drive by wanting to be in here. And then we're going to have to say, hey, people are driving by and pulling in, so we need people in there to minister to those kids and help those kids. So some of you guys might have to step up because we're dreaming again. We're going to build that field house for teenagers and for kids. We're going to teach kids how to hit a curveball. And you'll say, why is that important to hit a curveball? Number one, it gives a kid confidence. Number two, that's all life throws at you is curveballs. You learn to literally hit a curveball. Maybe you get a curveball financially. Maybe you get a curveball with your marriage. Maybe you get a curveball with your dating life. Man, you know what I want to do? And I'm just going to say it since I got you here and my filters somehow left me. Man, you guys at SkyTook, I want to buy the houses around our church and level them and build youth and kids buildings back there. But you know what? Let me tell you, it's going to require people with vision. It's going to require people that think for themselves and aren't limited by their thought life. Because all the devil wants to do is limit you. Man, why haven't some of you guys been in the lead pack for the nightmare? There's going to be 8,000 or 10,000 people come to Jesus. And let me tell you, you're not giving, that money doesn't leave your account. It goes from your bank to your heaven account. See, you go buy a car, it goes from your bank to the car dealer. You buy a house, it goes from your bank to a realtor, to someone selling the house. Man, you give to the nightmare, you give to the field house, whatever it is we're doing, it goes from your bank to heaven. Your bank, the compound interest in heaven is much greater than your bank's offering you. Leave me tell you. The devil doesn't have the foolish limitations that we think that he has of right and wrong. Like we have to stop with right and wrong so much and consider, is this right or wrong? Well, you know what? That's not the devil. That's just your limited thinking. See, how the devil operates is with might. All the devil understands is might. All the devil understands is dominion. It's just like terrorists. Let's negotiate with them. No. The only way to be terrorists, you got to choke them off. You have to choke them financially. You have to choke them in. Their supply line has to be shut down. The same way is true with the devil. Shut that supply line down. The only thing he gets is might. And let me tell you, that's what God has given us. Write it down. God has given me might and dominion. Might and dominion. Might and dominion. Do it next rainy day. You don't know what to do. You're bored. Nobody's calling you to go to lunch. Just get in the Word and study might and dominion and what God promises us with that. And let me just tell you something. It'll blow your mind and your thinking. The devil enters through fear and limits our power to think independently. See, that's how the propaganda's worked. We're all so limited in how the church is so limited in how we think. I remember, Sandy, when we started the church, it's like, here, let's do this. And man, there's people coming saying, I didn't know church could do that. It's like, well, we could. I dress like this. Now everybody does. Except for I don't feel like my clothes fit tonight. Do they not fit? I don't feel like it's a good look for me tonight. I don't know. I'm very self-conscious right now, so quit looking at me. Everybody look down at your notes. Okay, we have to bring every thought into the captivity of Christ. Every thought in the captivity of Christ. What does that say to you? Every thought. You can't let one slip by. Not one errant thought. Accurate thought is the key to your victory, to your success, to your fulfillment. Accurate thought. And because here's what Paul said. And this is what's true for us. Man, something hits your life. Man, think about it. Jeremy, think about what's hit your life lately. Man, if you don't know what to think about it, you're in trouble. And what Paul said is, we know in part, therefore we preach or prophesy in part. Let me tell you, when it comes to my marriage, I don't want to prophesy in part. When it comes to my children, my grandchildren, my health, their health. Man, when it comes to our church, I don't want to know in part and be able to prophesy in part. When it comes to the things in our church, the primary things that we're believing God for, I don't want to know in part, therefore preach in part. I want all of God I could get. Anybody with me on that? I mean, for real, do you want all? It requires, it's not a rhetorical question. How many of you guys want all of God you could get? Speak up. See, you got to make yourself, because what the devil's going to go, no, you can't do it. No, you failed the fourth grade. No, forget the freaking fourth grade. God's never going to bring up your past. God's promise, God's plan for your life, write this down. God's plan for your life is gargantuan compared to your past. I mean, I'm working out with Jaime 4 times a week. Jaime got saved in reform school in Philadelphia. Jaime figured it out that he was supposed to be in prison for 28 years. He would have still been in prison, but you know what? God found a way. And you know the whole idea, the plan for his life now, it's unlimited. But he's got a past. What's he going to do with it? Leave it there. Okay, write that down. Your past is past. Your past is passed. Leave it there. And we walk in the light that we're aware of. So, it's not about good and bad. It's not about right and wrong. It's about light and dark. It's about old and new. Man, we walk in the light. We're children of light. Man, how many guys got saved and the light came on? Man, everything in my life, till I got saved in my early 20s, I look back on it now, it's all dark. All of it is. And I'm like, were there no good days? Were there no happy memories? No, yes, I'm sure there were. And there are. But let me tell you, when I look at it, the whole of it, the sum total of it, it's dark. When I look at my life now, man, it's light. It's hope-filled. Man, how many of you guys could just, man, you start thinking hopefully. Because then there's no disappointment. Would you please listen to me? God gives us a hope that never disappoints. Man, the superlative with never is hard but we walk in the light we're aware of. Man, I want to be aware of all the light I can. You with me on that? The devil can't operate in minds of people who think accurately. If the devil's messing with you, it's because you're thinking wrong. It's because you've been deceived and he's steered you. He cannot operate in the lives of people if they think accurately. That's why it's real simple. Paul wrote and said, look, think on these things. Things that are good, things that are pure, things that are lovely, things that are of good report, things that are what are the rest of them. Man, we should know. Man, is that a pure thought? Is that a good thought? See, you know that your mind is going in a direction of Antichrist. And I think we've kind of lost the whole Antichrist thing is a big deal for us to understand. And I think that kind of this generation of ministry that we're in right now, it really, that really hasn't, but I think we have to teach people like what it's like when that Antichrist comes into our thought life and comes into our life and seeps into our marriage and our home. But it's Antichrist if there's fear, any kind of fear. If there's discouragement, if you're discouraged, it's Antichrist. If there's hopelessness, he's just hopeless. It's like, please stop saying that. The situation is hopeless. Really? I don't know. I can't tell you, Sandy, how many hopeless situations have you come into that it's like, oh, it's not hopeless. Matter of fact, we just brought a bunch of hope. Matter of fact, there's victory now. And there's destructiveness. And let me tell you, that's the clincher for me, that there's destructiveness. You know what that destructiveness, it comes into our life, and I'll bet you right now that every one of us have areas of our life that there's been destructiveness that's come into that life, that part of our life, and just mess things up. See, we know it's Christ-like when there's trust, there's faith. Well, I just don't trust people. It's like, get over yourself. Get around the right people. Man, it's faith, it's trust, it's joy. Man, it's joy. The Bible talks about us putting on joy. You put on the clothes that you have. Man, you put them on. That's what you have to do with joy. You put on joy. You have to put it on. I don't feel like it. Yeah, that's why it's called joy. Man, why aren't you happy? Because all this bad stuff's happening. Man, why aren't you joy-filled? Because I've chosen not to be joy-filled. Joy is a choice. Hope. Hope's huge. People start talking bad about Joel Osteen because all he preaches on is hope, walk away. Don't be around those kind of people. I'm not kidding you. Because all the world needs is been a little hope from the church. Are you kidding me? Well, I'm lame, man, there's hope. I'm blind, let me tell you, there's hope. Why is there hope? Because God's word promises sight to the blind, strength to the lame. There's promises. All we've got to do is flip through our Bible for 10 minutes. And man, there's an overwhelming argument for blind eyes to come open. Overwhelming. Man, and the last one about Christ-like is there's a definiteness of purpose. We're not just bumping into purpose right now. Everything in our life is about purpose. We're definite in that purpose. And you know what's interesting? It's like kids that start school. And I heard of this analogy. Kids that start school, like our kids at in our early learning program. Tara Trevino, Liz, whatever her last name is, that are doing an incredible job. Okay? Incredible. Oh, there's Liz right there. What's your last name? It is for real? Warden? Wharton or Warden? Wharton. Horton. You didn't even know her either. Liz, would you mind standing? I'd like to introduce you to Liz Wharton, who's doing a killer job, whether I know her last name or not, is doing a killer job. But listen, those kids, they get up and they say, okay, I'm going to ask a question. Who's got an answer? And before they can even ask the question, all those 3, 4, and 5-year-old kids are going like this. You know why? Because there's trust, and they're excited about answering the question. But then let's fast forward 10 years. Let's catch those kids in high school, 10 or 12 years. Hey, I got a question. And let me tell you, they're all sitting as far back in the class as they can. They're sitting back like this. They're not making eye contact with the teacher or the adults, and they're not going to answer a dadgum question. They're not going to volunteer for anything. Well, let me tell you, the church has got to counter this. We've got to raise up excited people. Man, we've got to be excited. We've got to be people that are quick to volunteer. We're people that are quick to serve. Man, we're people that are quick to give, ready to share. We've got to be those people. And let me just tell you something. I'm preaching to the choir because, man, Sky took some pulpit, Tulsa. You are that kind of people. Man, I look at Alan Rossellini. Alan Rossellini is going to be at the front of the line at the Nightmare every night, greeting every single person. And he's done it for how many years? And it's not even a question. And let me tell you, that's a heart after God. That's somebody that wants all the God they can get. We're in the business of godly, righteous, accurate thought habits. See, what's interesting is I'm going to have to stand, you guys that call me pastor, you guys that call Sandy pastor, we're going to have to stand before God for your soul. Not for what you do, but for how you think. We at least have to give you the gospel, which the kingdom of God of righteousness, that at least it has to be a decision you make to think accurately in the light or you think in the dark. That you think accurately. And we have the power to direct our lives. Do you understand that? We can direct our own lives. You know what's interesting? Probably every other mammal on the planet, they just operate by instinct. Birds will migrate, then they'll go back. Man, no, what we have is we have our own choice. We can make decisions, and we have the power to direct our lives. If you are broke, if you are poor, if you're living in poverty, you have the power to get wealth, is what the Bible promises you. And you'll say, well, it's good because I want a lot of money. No, then you're not going to get it. God's given us the power to get wealth to establish His covenant. See, there's strings attached to everything but God's love. God's promises are all conditional. And what we've got to do, and I'm just telling you the condition to the 7 churches in the book of Revelation, there were 7 separate promises, individual and customized for each church, but one condition on every one of them, to he who overcomes. And that's the nature that God's put on the inside of us, is we have an overcoming nature. And the power to direct our own lives is we can be submissive to God and His promises. And that's what I do with God's promises. I just submit to them. We have to think accurately. We have to cast down vain imaginations and everything, every high thing that exalts itself above the knowledge of God. Because people who think accurately they possess the power. They have the power to overcome. And let me tell you what that is, the power of life. See, the Bible talks about the power of life and the power of death. The power of life is we overcome. The power of death is we get trampled. We're to yield our minds to no person and no earthly influence. None. See, it's difficult for us to think for ourselves. We don't learn that in school. Most people aren't raised that way. But people live substandard lives because they eat too much of the wrong food. They enter into marriage without a plan or a purpose. I mean, what's the plan? What's the purpose of your marriage? If Pastor Sandy and I didn't have a purpose for our marriage, it's not going to be healthy and strong. But once there's a purpose, we can withstand anything. There's no map to harmony or agreement with people. Man, if you don't have a map in your life to live a harmonious life with the people around you and in agreement, you're with the wrong people. You fight, you shut each other out, you argue. The world is full of that now. Man, if you don't believe like me, if you don't think like me, if you don't talk like me, you're wrong. If you don't have the same skin color as me, if you don't have whatever it is, and let me tell you, it's not now. That's been for generations, for years. Man, if you've got expertise of finding fault and blaming, see, that's the subtle way that the devil comes in and what he does is he comes in, he gets you going the wrong way, and he could go somewhere else and take care of something else because your direction is gonna lead you astray. Man, that there's no plan for transition in your life. See, you go from being a toddler to going to preschool. There's a transition there. And then going to elementary school, there's a transition there. And then going to junior high in the transition, and then high school in the transition, and then college or the workforce in the transition. But listen, there's vocation, and there's marriage, and there's kids, and the biggest transition of your life is the legacy God's trusting you with. Let me tell you, Scott and Vanessa's children are going to outproduce them spiritually without a doubt. My children, Sandy's children, they're going to outproduce us. It's just without a doubt. Why? There's legacy attached to it. And that's how God does this. See, the thought of us just making a living, it causes this underlying message of poverty. Just getting by. I'm just making a living. No. Man, your source is God. That salary or that paycheck is seed. Man, so many people overspend with no plan to save. And that causes poverty to come into the mix. Because let me tell you my working definition, you new people, my working definition of poverty is it's not you having nothing. It's you're having just enough. It's hand to mouth. It's month to month. You got just enough. If you're, man, the devil gets you thinking wrong, so there's dissatisfaction at home. Don't raise your hands, but how many of you guys are dissatisfied at home? Don't raise your hands. Dissatisfied at work. Dissatisfied at church. Dissatisfied with your relatives. Dissatisfied with your in-laws. Man, the devil gets into those things. And the big one's just negativity. And those are things that are sown into our life through the classroom, through a lot of pulpits, you guys. Man, I hear things that you guys have learned at church. I'm like, oh, God, help us. It's criminal. Can I help you? You're good enough. You have everything you need to be victorious, successful, and fulfilled in life right now. But the devil's just to try to get us to procrastinate. And we got to be people of action. I've got a mouthful. I've got a list of 10 things that I think I'm gonna try to put it on the internet or something. I mean, do you guys have the internet? And man, I'll tell you, God loves you so much. God loves you so much that there's 2 pastors that came from Washington to sit in church with you tonight. That's how much God loves you. Do you guys want to stand? I want to welcome you guys in here tonight. Lifetime, given their lives, man, decades of service to God, and chose to be in church with you tonight. That's how much God loves you. Man, don't doubt that. Don't let anything around you discredit that. This is the best place on the planet for you. It is. It's where you want to sow your life.